right, so welcome to the November meetup here for the Drupal NYC Meetup at 30 Rock. Thank you for being patient as we went through some of these AV technical difficulties. But let's see. I already went through the housekeeping, so we don't need to do this again. And just so I started talking about this earlier, but basically our agenda, we're gonna have some announcements. We're going to do kind of like a different thing with the introductions than what you guys all came for, the talks, and of course, the socializing that's gonna happen here and at the after party at Bill's Bar and Burger, which you can actually get to from this building. As you guys can all see, there's the Wi-Fi stuff that I was talking about at the bottom. So if you're looking for that information, it's there. So our talks. We have 2 lightning talks. ElijahLynn is going to give us a lightning talk on the physical web, as I mentioned before. Murielle and Sam from Lumturio are going to be talking about monitoring your Drupal installations. And then Howard is going to be talking about Probo.ci. And I just want to thank tonight's organizers. If you guys, most of you guys are standing up. But we've got, of course, Ben over there in the back, who is our speaker coordinator. Ho-Ling, who's done all the marketing and communications, so you guys knew what to do when you got here and where to go and what's all about. Of course, Elijah, who's done all the venue coordination and everything. Christopher in the back, who's standing there looking with like that expression, frowning at me, is handling the recording. So thank you all. Do we have Forrest? No. Thank you all for all your help tonight. This place, the food, the drinks are all sponsored by NBC Universal Technology. So big thanks to you. We've got 2 lovely people here. You met them when you're walking in, Randy and Jennifer. They are here to talk to you if you are looking, stand up, looking for new opportunities, or if you have questions about like, what is this NBC Universal all about? They're really nice. Talk to them. So thank you. We always like to share some interesting facts at our meetups. So we have right now 1,049 members. Last meetup we had 82 attendees, and tonight we had 98 RSVPs at the time of the cutoff. And of course, the most interesting thing, the Drupal 8 release date has been announced. Woo! Do you guys know like when the release date is? Who knows?
When it's done.
Well, it's November 19th. And to celebrate that, we're going to have a Drupal 8 release party. So, we're trying to decide which date to pick. Either the 18th or the 19th. And we wanted to kind of get a check from everyone.
I was wrong. It's the 19th or the 20th.
Oh, sorry. Okay. 19th or the 20th. So the 19th is a Thursday.
Which is the actual release date.
Yes, true. Which is the actual release date. And of course the 20th is Friday. So we wanted to see like a raise of hands. Who thinks they can make the 19th, which is a Thursday? All right. And then who could make the 20th? Okay. So it kind of seems a little even. That seems like a tie. All right. Well, it is more special on the same day. But Fridays are also more crowded. So we're going to try and figure out the location. Just like how you RSVP'd for this event, all the information and the RSVP is going to be on our meetup page on meetup.com/Drupal NYC. So look out for that. So we love photos. Please take them. and upload them to our Meetup page. And then if you're using Twitter or Instagram or whatever, we have a hashtag. It's hashtag Drupal NYC. So that's a little note for that. We also like to go over some upcoming events. So we've got some coming up. This week is Drupal Camp Chattanooga in Tennessee on November 7th. And Drupal Camp New Jersey is going to be awesome, as it always is, in January 29th to the 31st. And I think Elijah was going to say a couple things about it.
Yes. Normally Peter would come here and do this, but he couldn't make it. I think tonight's a voting night, and apologies for scheduling on voting night. So Drupal Camp New Jersey. January 29th is like a sprint day. January 30th is the actual day that you're gonna want to, most people are gonna want to come. And then January 31st is like an extended sprint. Actually, I'm sorry, the 29th is gonna be like a training day. So definitely check that out. Sign up for it. It's a great place. It's at Princeton University, and it's at the Friends Center. It's a beautiful venue and location and everything. It's gonna be some good speakers. It's really it's not a free event, but it's super cheap. It's like 25, 30. I don't know. Does anybody know how much it is? It's under $50 for the whole day, the whole weekend. And the tickets sell out every year. So make sure to get a ticket now if you do want to go, because otherwise it might be gone. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, you have a question?
Just a quick announcement that we have Drupal Drinks as well, which is our social networking event. We do that last Wednesday of every month. So we're posting it to the same channel you see these meetups, and the same meetup now. So keep an eye out for that.
Okay, well, since you're saying that, I should also give a pitch for Drupal Play Days, which is happening on the 21st. I guess we should probably consolidate our meetup pages. But anyway, that's happening at Phase 2 Technology. It's from 11 to 5 on that Saturday. Come hang out with me and some other folks, and it's going to be fun. You can just bring your problems or just help somebody else out. It's going to be cool. So other future events are DrupalCon Asia, happening in February, Sand Camp in San Diego, also at the end of February, and then, of course, MidCamp, which is happening in March. So keep that on your radar. If you are interested in speaking, talk to Ben. He is awesome. He helped coordinate these talks tonight, and he wants to work with you. So if you want to do a lightning talk, if you want to do a more in-depth talk, contact him, and his information is up there. You can also get in contact with him through our Meetup page. So now we're kind of towards the introductions kind of piece. We wanted to do something different. So for the people who are hiring, come up, and the people who are looking for opportunities also come up. So come up. Don't be shy. Come up with me. And then, of course, Randy and Jennifer, you should come up here too. So come on. It's gonna be quick. So first off, we're gonna introduce ourselves, and if you're hiring, mention your company and what you're looking for. So go ahead.
Hi, as you met, I'm Randy for Talent Acquisition for NBC. We are looking for several flavors, all Drupal, of course. Front end, back end, even if you do end to end, from mid, senior to principal roles. Just come and say hello to us, and we'd love to talk to you.
Cool. Pass it down.
Anybody else? Irie?
You got it. Go ahead.
All right. This is a bit of a long shot. I'm with Bohemian Hall in Astoria, Queens. We have 3 websites. One is the membership website we're putting together right now. It's Drupal. We're going to do pre-launch, I guess, in December. We're looking for someone part-time right now to maintain it. In the long term, we'll have to maintain the whole operation. So if you're interested, get a hold of me. I'll get you more details. It's the easiest thing I can tell you.
My name is John Amatuli. I'm a freelance developer, full stack developer, and I just finished my last project. So I've had a few interviews already, but what the heck.
Earl Fong. I started working in Drupal a couple of years ago. I've actually been making a little money on it for the past year. Back-end developer. currently contracting at Whole Whale, which is a small agency in Brooklyn, and I'm looking for additional back-end Drupal work. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ross Nunamaker. I spent the last 5 years at Olympus in their medical systems group, and I actually brought Drupal into the company. And 2 weeks ago, had been restructured out of the company. So I'm currently looking for positions more in the area of business strategy as well as project management.
Cool. Very awesome. Thanks so much, guys. So hopefully this time everyone could see what's going on and you guys know who to talk to when we have that socializing part in the after party. So don't be shy. Talk to them. So we're also going to have you guys talk to each other. I saw you guys eating the pizza, but some of you guys were eating the pizza in your seats. So you're going to have to meet somebody new. So take 5 minutes. Introduce yourself to your neighbor. It's going to be really short. Just say, like, your name, what you do, and, like, why you decided to come tonight. All right? So 5 minutes. Go.
You up first, right? Yes. Okay, whenever you're okay. You're taking your laptop out. Now you have video? You're going to show a video?
I do, but I can't show audio, so don't worry about the audio.
Okay.
Yeah, but DisplayPort doesn't offer an audio signal.
Oh, okay.
I love this thing. I love this thing.
If you guys have a neighbor on the other side of you, be sure to introduce yourself to that person too. All right, all right, all right. Lovely, lovely, lovely. If you guys can hear my voice, could you finish your conversation because we're about to start our presentations. If you can hear my voice, clap once. If you can hear my voice, clap twice. If you can hear my voice, clap 3 times. Awesome. All right, so that was awesome. I'm so glad you guys met and talked to each other. You can continue your conversations after party. It's gonna be great. But now we're gonna start the presentations. So first off, we're gonna have an awesome lightning talk by Elijah, who is a senior software engineer at NBC Universal. Yeah, works with their publisher team, and he helps to maintain their internal Drupal 7 distribution for brands such as Bravo, USA, Sci-Fi, Sprout, Oxygen, and more. Sprout is awesome. Yeah. Let me move out of your way, too. So he's an active contributor for Drupal, and he's also the maintainer of the Sticky Actions module. Sticky Edit Actions, sorry.
You got a better name for Drupal.
Okay.
I didn't take my microphone.
You can have my microphone, Elijah. Just don't knock over my computer, otherwise I'm going to be really mad. So he's also a former locksmith, which is really awesome. And he's worked for a locksmithing situation for the FBI, which I think is pretty neat. So everyone give it up for Elijah. He's going to talk about the physical web.
Thank you. Just setting my display to clone, and hopefully this works. Kris, do we have everything? All right. That's going good. Oops. All right. Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming. My name is ElijahLynn. I work for NBC Universal. This talk is not specifically about Drupal, but we like to welcome talks here that every now and then are kind of not so much about Drupal. But this is about the physical web. I first learned about this, I think it was July. Google made the announcement that they're kind of having this physical web project. And I think this is actually like a year ago. But they actually came up with a specification and kind of a GitHub project, and it's open source on GitHub. It was really piqued my interest because basically it involved like having these beacons or devices that could just tell you that they were this thing. So I think the Portland transit system's already using this a little bit, so you can just know like what stop you're at by your phone, and it'll tell you kind of what the next stop, so you don't have to scan QR codes or NFC tags or no GPS location. It's like geolocation within inches. You know, it's really close. So this is their official thing. It's the physical web's an approach to unleash core superpower. People should be able to walk up at any smart device, any machine. I'm going to show you some demos too. A toy, bus stop, whatever. Not have to download an app first, right? So the way this all works is they promoted this thing called Eddystone beacons, and it's kind of like a replacement for iBeacons. Anybody's heard about that? iBeacons didn't have much support for Android, allegedly. Their Eddystone format that they've released is supposedly iOS and Android friendly. It's still rough days for like support for the devices, but anyway, it's coming, and this looks to me like it's going to be pretty widely adopted. So they announced this a few months ago, and a whole bunch of manufacturers are on board selling these things. And I'll show you some pictures and whatnot. So this is a beacon, and this is called an Estimote beacon. It's just whatever. There's many different manufacturers that make these now, but it's got one single battery in there. It emits a chirp with a URL, an Eddystone URL format. It's basically a web URL, right? And these get out about every 250 seconds to 1,000 milliseconds. You can configure every device to be whatever, and the longer you do that, the longer the battery life, obviously. Anyways, that is just broadcasting this URL, so you could have the TV have one of these beacons on it, and every TV, and based on where you are in the room, maybe my phone could know that I'm closer to this TV than I am that TV, and if that TV was showing something different on it, that URL could be broadcasted a different link, and then I could actually take that link with me, or just see, or I could transfer what's on that screen to my phone, and then take that with me. So there's many different applications we can use for this stuff, but it's pretty interesting how the accuracy is going to like just crush a lot of things. And you don't have to scan these QR codes or NFC tags anymore. It's really going to be nice if this actually works out. I don't know everything about this, and I'm actually going to be ordering some of these for our company because we are putting a bunch of displays around the office, and I'm going to be experimenting with this myself pretty soon. This is just kind of the big picture, but I'm going to jump real quick to like a video, and I'm going to try to get you audio. I don't have a HDMI to do sound, but I'm going to just do the microphone thing here. And I'm going to show you a couple videos to give you a better picture, because then maybe you'll have some better questions and stuff like that. So, although that's not the video I wanted to show first.
Smart beacons present relevant information to your device based on the context of where you are. Now, smart beacons present relevant information to your device based on the context of where you are. Now in Android and iOS 7, your device scans for any nearby beacons in the background as you move around. And when you want info about something you're near, it's ready to swipe on your notification screen. So if you take out your phone as you pass a new restaurant, you can see their lunch specials or menu reviews. Since your phone knows that you just arrived at the table with the red beacon, the menu will be ready when you pick up your phone. So if you're in a hurry, you can send your order straight to the kitchen. You can have beacons at home too. So if your context is the kitchen and you're near the fridge, your shopping list will be ready and waiting when you look at your phone. And then when you walk by the beacon in the dairy aisle, your phone can give you a reminder to make sure you don't forget to pick up milk. And because the range awareness for beacons is sensitive down to a few inches, it can tell what you're closest to or what product you pick up. So when you look at your phone, it'll already show product information or let you know if your size is in stock or let you see what other colors are available. And then you can order it right from your phone. And if you've been at the restaurant for a while, your phone will be ready if you want to order another drink or pay the check with the push of a button. Your phone is always with you. Smart beacons give it some context.
Now, this one is the sticker. It's the same thing, but just a few different use cases. I'm just going to show this one also. Oh, sorry. I'm just going to show this one also. This is stickers. The battery life's not as long. They're a little bit more slim. You can put them on more device, like thinner items, like a shoe or something like that. You'll see that. And the battery life's not as long because the battery's not as big.
As you walk, your eyes process terabytes of information about the world around you. Your subconscious is constantly scanning for recognizable objects and locations to give you context and help you navigate. But if you close your eyes for a moment, you can only walk a few steps before your brain loses its context and forces you to stop. That's the world your smartphone lives in every day. It's a powerful computer, but it's completely blind. Last year, we introduced Estimote beacons to solve just that. They're small sensors that can be placed anywhere to provide context and microlocation to any smart device. Now, we're introducing Estimote stickers, tiny beacons with built-in accelerometers and temperature sensors. You can stick them to any of your favorite objects nearby. We call them Nearables. Using stickers in our rich SDK, you can build a new generation of amazing context-aware apps. For example, if you stick one to your bike, your phone can automatically track your routes, record where you left it, and even detect motion if someone moves it. Or how about an app that can turn on an alarm clock only when you need it? You have a 9 a.m. meeting on your calendar, and thanks to the sticker, your phone knows that your context is still the bedroom. And since traffic is backed up, it wakes you up a few minutes early. What about when a customer picks up something they're interested in? Because the sticker can sense motion, they can be presented with relevant information about the color options, similar products, or specials. Then, at the end of the day, a store owner can see what products customers are interacting with most and use that info to fine-tune promotions and sales or make adjustments to the store layout. The potential applications are endless, even something as simple as an app that lets you know when you forget your bag when you leave a coffee shop. Join thousands of developers worldwide and build your own apps for Nearables. Order your sticker development kit today. Estimote. Reality matters.
All right, thank you. So with that being said, there's a lot of potential applications, use cases. Does anybody see like possibilities with this stuff? Got a couple nods. Yeah, a few nods. Nice. I saw a lot of applications and possibilities with it. So it broadcasts a URL, has iOS and Android support. I want to show you, just to show you that, here's the repo. It's on GitHub. You can see here, I think it has, well, there is like an iOS and Android folder, so it's like a real thing. It's all open source, the whole format, specification, everything down to the firmware. And you can reflash iBeacons with this firmware. It's pretty cool. So I covered all that and just some use cases, but I'm not going to go. I don't have much time left. Does anybody have any questions so far about Eddystone beacons or the physical web or anything like that? Microphone over to.
Hello. Just wondering, is there a two-way communication? Does it pick up what your MAC address or your phone number or anything like that?
I don't think so. I think it's just a broadcast. Like it's just saying, this is what I am, and that's the way it is. I don't know everything about these yet, but it literally is just a URL broadcasting. There's like a header that it sends, and it can send like temperature temperature and accelerometer data and stuff like that. Some of the beacons will have more than others, but I don't think it's a two-way. I think it's just one way.
So, thinking 10, 15 years in the future, once this really takes off, how do you foresee, like if this is on every other product that you see when you walk by a store, how do you kind of foresee your phone reacting to this? Because it would just go off all the time. Do you think there's going to be some sort of opt-in or opt-out process?
Yeah, it's going to be like, wow, there's so much stuff around here, right? There's like 20 million things popping up on my phone. And you want to buy this, you want to do this, or whatever, right? So I'm picturing, there'll obviously be like a setting you can choose, like your radius, like is it, my radius 10, 15 feet away, a mile away? No, I can't, I'm sorry, Bluetooth can't even do that. But, like tone down the radius a little bit. But other than that, like, so let's say you have an app. I was thinking about this, right? If the app could totally whitelist, right? Like a set of IDs that you had, like a database. You'd have a database of your IDs and all that stuff, and then that'd be fine. The app would just show what you wanted to have, right? But so the way this is like rolled out right now is in Chrome for iOS, I think. Like it just picks up stuff, right? So this is all like early days, and there's also like how do you like deal with people emulating other IDs and stuff like that? Like it's interesting. There's some security issues and whatnot, but I think everybody's going to try to figure out a way around that. I don't really know that much though. Yeah, I'm just showing you what I know.
Thank you.
This gentleman over here has a question. Wait 1 second, just because it's being recorded. I always have to repeat the question.
All right, so you have some services right now where you have to have the app to take advantage of it, like for when you buy something at the store, if you want a discount or you want to be in a loyalty program, you have to have an app. And I haven't seen any of those really take off. So do you think that in order for this to really succeed, it would have to have some functionality that's built into like mobile OSs like iOS to really take off?
Yeah, that was the goal that I think Google kind of pushed for this, is that they really wanted to get away from having to have an app to do everything that you want, like, download my app, right? So it could just broadcast URL, and then that URL could deep link inside of an app. It could be like, boom, take you right inside of an app. But I don't, yeah. It's going to be interesting how it all turns out. I can't say. I'm gonna give another talk actually in a couple months after I play with this stuff for a little while, because I'm trying to do this stuff at my office right now, and we're trying to actually see, like, really what does it do? Like, it's hard. It's easy to look at pictures. Like, they had a great promo video, like, oh, look at all this cool stuff, right? But I don't know how it's gonna work out. So I don't know if I answered your question.
I guess that there's no answer right now, so you did. Thanks.
Yeah. And I think my time's up. So thank you guys.
Okay, so our next lightning talk is going to focus on security. It's going to be by Murielle and Sam. So let me tell you a little bit about them. So Murielle and Sam are Belgian born, and they co-founded Lumturio. And Murielle is a successful and soulful entrepreneur, mentor, coach, writer, and business strategist. She is really into women causes and women empowerment, and that's really, really awesome. And together with Sam, they founded this web agency, and it's been for more than a decade. So her interesting fact, her last consulting position was with the European Union, which is pretty fantastic. And Sam, and she's the CEO of Lumturio, and Sam is the CTO. He's been running this web agency with Murielle for the past decade as well. And a nice little fact on his latest consultancy position was the head of the web department for the European Commission. And the European Commission handles about 300 million page views per month. That's also equally fantastic. So they're going to talk to you about monitoring Drupal installations and do some security. So let's give it up for them. Come on up.
You have it. You had it. Yeah? Okay. Perfect.
Just give it a minute to go back.
It's do the same thing.
Wait. Oh, this thing?
Here. You have to accept it when you switch.
Okay. Hi, does this work? Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Murielle. I know I don't have a lot of time. It's going to be difficult for me because I love to talk, so I'm going to try and do my best. I have an accent. That's because I speak French and Dutch. I'm from Belgium. Sam is not only co-founder of Lumturio, but also, incidentally, my husband, which is very important for the story I'm going to tell. So I want to take a few minutes to talk about Drupal maintenance and security. Thank you, Mai, for introducing me so nicely. I have been working with Drupal websites for quite a long time now, together with Sam, and we had our own web agency through which we developed and pushed out quite a lot of Drupal websites. What we found doing that was that once we had pushed them out, very often we got calls from people saying, you know, something had happened to their website, or, you know, something that related to security or maintenance. Now, what is important to know is that the vast majority of the security holes that are going to be presented in Drupal websites come from developers. Now, I'm a project manager. I love developers. I'm very fond of them, have a good relationship with many of them. But it is true that through the practice that I had managing projects, I really liked to work with contributed modules rather than things that were done custom for websites. So that would definitely be one of the first things that that could be interesting, and I'm sure a lot of you know this here. So there are a number of other things here on the list that are potential threats to not only Drupal websites, but basically websites in general. People leaving organizations, I've been there and seen that many times, still having access to Drupal administration and to Drupal websites. And also the very common admin passwords that a developer who wants to start a project on his own computer thinks, you know, I don't have to be secure, I'm just doing it on my own thing or my own computer. But then one day that website is pushed out and nobody knows that that password is in there, and it just stays in there, you know, and it's lost forever, or it's CMS systems that are not up to date is in the news daily nowadays. This is something we also noticed in our web agency. What happened was there was a gap. In-house, we knew modules and Drupal core needed to be updated and maintained. We went to the customer and we delivered a website and we said, you know, you have to be very careful because this is not a finished product. This is something that has to live, and you're going to have to maintain it and take care of the modules and update them. But very often in that process, the notification emails either got lost because they were still coming in the developer's mailbox, and nobody in the company where the website was being managed or people taking care of that knew about that. Or there was a lack of responsibility, because very often that's also what happens. You don't know who's responsible once it's pushed out. It's very clear when you're developing it, because the developers that work on the project know I have to maintain these modules and I have to make sure that before I push the website out, I'm going to do a final update, so everything is very clean before it goes to the customer. But then what happens? Now, when it comes to code and maintenance, there are of course a number of things that you can do. I'm not going to go into detail because I'm sure most of these things are very familiar to you here tonight. Try to avoid using too many modules. Definitely don't hack the core. Please don't do that. It's a bad idea. Use consistent coding standards, and in my opinion and through my work, what I found to be one of the most important aspects of that is try to keep the websites up to date. Of course, there is also something like notification blindness, and yes, I have consulted for the European Commission, and I actually have a little anecdote from my time there. One time there was a developer that came to me, he was a senior, and we had worked on a project together, and for one or another reason, I noticed that a module hadn't been updated when it had to be. And I went to him and I asked him why he hadn't acted on the notification. And he told me that he created a rule that grabbed all the notifications that came into his mailbox and that all of that just went into a folder that he never opened, just because it was too much. And this is not something I invented. This is really something that exists. It's notification blindness. And it's a really big problem because CMS systems that are not up to date are in danger. And that costs a lot of money. There is a lot of things that can happen when you have a security breach. And these are only a few of the things that a company can undergo if they go offline or if anything happens to the modules of their website. But, and I found that this is the one thing that really speaks to the people in charge that are going to have to let you do the maintenance and going to have to listen to you when you tell them you have to keep your Drupal websites up to date. And that's the bottom line. And there are statistics about that are available online. And they tell you how much 1 second of downtime costs Amazon or Google or YouTube. Now, of course, your website and, well, NBC is kind of a cool website too, I have to admit. But maybe not all of your clients' websites are going to be as huge as Amazon or Google, but I can guarantee you they're going to get the picture. If you just, tell them very easily in these terms, they're going to get it. And so in our marriage, which I just very quickly want to come back to, I'm a very patient woman. You'll see when Sam comes and gives you an introduction of the platform. And for a very long time, every time we pushed a Drupal website out, I would get the notification emails. And I would dispatch them diligently to developers who would then do the updates. And one day I'm very stressed because it's a lot of updates, a lot of notification emails. And my husband comes, look at my screen and says, "What is this? What is going on? You have so many notifications in your mailbox." And I explain the situation. And of course, being the good developer that he is, he tells me he's going to build me a solution. And so that's what he did. He created a platform that I could access where I had an overview of all the websites of all our customers with at-a-glance information of what modules and what core needed to be updated. And my life was much better ever since, not only for that, of course. But so Sam, please, if you want to.
Hi. We're short on time, I think. But I just wanted to show you this. Okay. So I took a database dump a few days ago. The database you're going to see is obfuscated. It's not the real data. It's the real data, but not the real domain names. It's an actual customer, and it's one of our best customers because he keeps all his websites up to date. So if you log in, you immediately see the overview of all the websites. This guy, he has a few websites. I will click on the Sites tab. 1 second. That's a bit better. I'm actually quite proud of this interface as well, because I never used AngularJS before, and this summer I decided, let's do a new project. I don't need SAO or anything, so it's authenticated. So I built this completely in AngularJS. There's also an API available to all our users, and this AngularJS application, it uses the same API, so it's pretty cool. You have options, so only show sites that have security updates. Then if you want to see the actual updates that are available, you can click on this little thing. Or if you want to see all websites with module updates. You can click here. You see all the updates available for all these sites. Pretty cool, I think. If you click here, you can see the actual status of the website. If you're interested in this, please come to me after the event, because the way that we capture all this information, it's pretty cool. So we do not depend on Drupal at all. We made our own thing. One of the things, so there are like these filters everywhere. You can export to files all the data that you do. But for example, core, we see here the Drupal core version of this website. I can click here, and I can see the different Drupal core versions released and when this user actually did the update. So 6.37 was released 2 months ago on the 19th, but the user upgraded on the 21st. So this is cool information. The modules used, so we see here that a lot of people use the same modules all over and over again. See here token, admin menu, views, but there are also a lot of modules being used only for a few websites. So this page gives you more or less the overview, so you can see like, I don't know, commerce rules extra, it's only used by one site. So maybe then you can investigate, should we try to use other modules or things like that. You can click through on anything that you see, simply scroll or draggable views, and you can see the site again in different versions used. Security advisories. So what we try to do here is there are a lot of notifications that people get, but often they don't apply to you. For example, this one, it was 13 days ago, but it was only for you if you used, for example, I don't know, the overlay module. So what we do is we check on our end, is the site actually using the overlay module? And if not, we don't issue a warning. We only do if you do. So this is to help with the notification blindness that Murielle was telling. There are so many RSS feeds, emails. We just filter out all the crap. We take Drupal as a source, but we also take other sources and we match that against your site. So that's pretty cool as well. We have the triggers. You can configure custom actions, like for example, if you updated a module on a specific website, all modules or only the breakpoints module, and then you can get email notifications. So the typical use case for this is that after updates are done on a website, it's being sent to the project manager and he bills the customer. So that's also pretty useful. I'm running out of time. So remember this overview. It's a real customer. I took the dump 4 days ago. I'm now going to log in to another customer just to show you. So this is more or less what the default accounts look like. Most of our users have around 80 to 100 websites. In total, we scan over 5,000 websites. We only started in August this year. The platform is live since September, so I think it's pretty good. But we really see like this guy, if we go to sites and then, sites, only sites with security updates, it's all 54. So, I mean, he has security updates everywhere. If we click here on the little show security updates, you see like every site. And this is very often the case, and it's not good, and it gives Drupal a bad reputation as well. So that's the end. If you have any questions, please see me later this evening, or I don't know. I hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, we could do a couple questions.
So the obvious question is, how do we use this, or how do we start using this with clients?
So there is the website Lumturio.com. You can go there and you can just get started immediately. So the way that this works is there is a contributed module. It's called System Status. We try to be as open as possible, so you can use it for your own projects as well. You don't have to use our product, but you download the System Status module, and then you go to our website, you add the website. Simple as that. The way that our platform works is we contact your website. It's done for a specific reason, because we work often with large websites. They're behind clusters. So you don't want that there is a cluster that one of the nodes start to try contacting us or cron doesn't work. So we reach out to your website. Yeah. It's my first meetup.
So,
I'm a bit.
The sites can be hosted anywhere.
Yes, absolutely. That's the idea. So some people may have noticed that Acquia has sort of the same solution. It's called Acquia Insight, I think, but it only works if you're hosted on their private cloud. So there again, our roadmap is to also support Joomla, WordPress, SharePoint, everything. So we really want to be that single dashboard that you can use for all the sites in your company. We're also looking into white labeling stuff so that your company can have an account and you can give access to your customers, things like that. We're very flexible. So, we do a lot. We do Slack integration, Jenkins, Hudson, whatever. So, that's it. Okay. Thank you for your time.
For our last presentation, which is going to be longer, not a lightning talk, it's going to be talking about Probo.ci. So that's going to be the talk's going to be given by Howard, who is the VP of Engineering at ZivTech. And he's been focused on automation and a DevOps-y workflow since, I guess, before DevOps was even a buzzword. And he's been working in open source since he got started with Drupal 4.7. He's even worked on the team that upgraded Drupal.org from CVS to Git. So that's pretty awesome. And so he's got a pretty big passion for building tools that make developers' lives, like myself, and jobs easier and fun. And he's going to kind of share that passion tonight about talking about Probo.ci.
Probo.ci, this is what I've been working on all of the time lately. So thank you for the great introduction. I'm Tizzo on Twitter, GitHub, Drupal.org, anywhere I can get it. So feel free to hit me up there. And as she said, I am the VP of Engineering at ZivTech. They've sponsored this whole thing, so I got to give the proper plug here. We do Drupal and DevOps consulting, increasingly more and more around the sort of stuff around Drupal and helping people with their build processes and all of that stuff as well, and then we build Drupal sites. So, Probo.ci. Oh my God, another CI tool. I was just talking to a friend of mine the other day, and he said, I was talking to someone the other day, and we said, the one thing that the world doesn't need another one of is a CI tool. And I was like, I was about to tell you about my new project. So, right, you probably have a CI tool. We've been using Jenkins for years at ZivTech. We use it not just for CI, we use it for freaking everything. Cron jobs won't email you when they fail. Cron jobs won't keep track of how long the job is taking, whether that's trending up or down. Cron jobs stink. Use Jenkins, not cron jobs. But whatever you're using for your CI, Jenkins, Travis, et cetera, most of them don't really do a good job of solving the QA problem. So, right, continuous integration, the idea is every single time you push some code, you want to be able to run some tests and have a computer check a bunch of stuff and say, does this still work? load the front page, type in a username and password, see if we can log in. That hello world will save you so much time. If you just wrote that test, you'd save yourself a huge amount of time for all the little things that somebody pushes that they left off a semicolon, right? We work in a medium where the difference between something functioning perfectly and catastrophic failure is bad punctuation. Forget worrying about exactly the wording, right? This is even stricter than law. Although the stakes are usually lower. So the CI, the continuous integration, that runs your tests. That lets you know on whether the thing that you've changed is catastrophically broken or not. But what about quality assurance? What about having a human being take a look and see whether that stuff actually still looks right? Here's the dirty little secret with Drupal. Perfect automated testing is impossible with it. There, I said it. Right? So the Drupal approach is to download all of the code. Just all of it. Hey, you want to do something with a date on your website? Well, you could write like 3 lines of an input filter and like 2 lines of like some jQuery UI and then like create a database table, right? How many lines of code, even including the jQuery date stuff, do you think we'd be talking about? Or you can install date module and break 10,000 lines that does time zone editing and deals with all leap years and all kinds of craziness and works with PHP 4 because, you still run that maybe, right? Now I know recent versions of Date probably don't still support PHP 4, right? But that's just the general philosophy of Drupal. Let's not have duplication, let's have few projects, and let's get everybody contributing to them. So that's cool because we prevent duplicate effort, but that kind of stinks because you're never going to get to 100% test coverage with Drupal. You're not even ever going to execute most of the code that you have on your site. And the difference between executing that code and not executing that code is checking one checkbox buried on some configuration page. So how do you even know whether you're executing the relevant code or whether that changes, right? Look, I love Drupal and I advocate it all the time, and I know I'm among friends here, so I know that I can just say, there's too much code. There's too much in the database. We give you too much power to change the way this thing functions just by clicky, 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 right? That's fine if it's your blog or your website for your kid's soccer team, but if it's NBC.com, stakes are kind of higher, and just going in cowboy style and changing something that causes catastrophic failure is bad. Here's the other thing, code review. I'm just sticking this in every one of my talks now. This talk is not really about code review, but code review. Who here makes sure that 2 eyes see a piece of code before it goes out the door? Every single time. Okay, so I saw like a quarter of the audience until I said every single time, and then like probably a third of them were like, well, I mean.
2 eyeballs or 2 sets?
2 sets. 2 sets. Some people squeezing by on the technicality, maybe. Code review is the single biggest thing you can do to increase the quality of the software you ship and to level up your team. You will learn so much from your coworkers, even if you were the most senior person there. Absolutely follow the Drupal.org workflow. On Drupal.org in Contrib, right? You submit a patch, someone that isn't you marks it reviewed and tested, and then usually someone that isn't that person commits it and marks it fixed, and nobody marks it closed. A computer does that after 2 weeks if somebody didn't come in and go, not fixed. Reopen that. So code review. That's going to be a big piece of what I'm talking about and how this whole workflow is going to work. I just want to give that the big plug. If you don't take anything else from this talk other than implementing a code review process with whoever you're working with, this talk was totally worth your time. So here's the traditional workflow. You create and assign a ticket. You do some code. Whoever gets assigned the ticket goes and does some work. They commit it. They push it, and then you review it on dev. The traditional workflow, if anybody is not familiar, right? You You start with these environments, right? Maybe you don't have a staging environment, but you really should have the other ones. If you don't, get on that. So working locally, you don't want to have your changes that you're making that are experimental break somebody else's stuff and waste half their day, right? Of course. So you do your changes locally, and you push that code to the dev environment. If you're on Acquia or Pantheon, that auto deploys to the shared dev instance. That's all great. On a regular basis, you're grabbing database snapshots from production and you're importing them on dev and you're importing them on your local. If you don't have that totally automated, you're probably doing that like once every 2 months when something breaks and you've already wasted a bunch of time. Right? And so databases never move that way, and code, in theory, never moves this way. Now, some of us have taken that and tried to take it one step farther. We said, let's say, if we create and assign the ticket, we do the code, but we don't just commit it to dev, we commit it to a feature branch. And then somebody reviews the feature branch, we do that code review part before we deploy it. Because we merge it to dev, and now the client looks at it on dev. Great, that's a step better. But here's the catch with that. All of these different changes have landed on dev before the client ever gets to go to see them. And so what are the chances that you got all that stuff right? So I'm here to argue that there's a better workflow that you can use, and that is to be able to review the changes in a sandbox, have all the stakeholders sign off that that's the thing that they wanted to see, and then be able to merge that so that master is always deployable. This is something Dries talked about at the keynote at the last DrupalCon, saying that that's his idea for how we can make sure that Drupal 9 doesn't sprawl for 5 years like Drupal 8 did. Work in sandboxes, make sure that master is always deployable. Now, if you go back, he did say something similar after the Drupal 6 release about how we were going to do that with 7, but we'll be nice to Dries. He created Drupal. We like it. I'm sure he'll get it right this time. Okay. So here's our old workflow at Drupal. I'm sorry, at Drupal, at ZipTech for Drupal. We got a lead developer. She's happy and optimistic. She assigns a ticket. The dev is all too happy to help. He thinks about the problem that was assigned and he goes and does some work. The project manager checks on him and says, hey, is that ready? Is that like about set? The dev is like, yeah, man, you know me. I got this. Don't even worry about it. It's all good. PM goes like, okay, could somebody review this? The lead's like, all right, I'll check it out. She grabs a new database. She pulls it into her local. She checks out the feature branch. She starts reverting features. She's already gotten annoyed. She hasn't even looked at the code yet. And she sees that she's missing a database table, so she starts running the database updates. And the database updates crash. The dev hears some grumbling. He knows this is going to be bad. She's not happy. The PM knows we're bearing down on the deadline. The dev he's regretting the mistake, maybe some of his other major life choices. The PM's hoping that the dev got it right this time. All right, lead sees it's finally working. That's cool. Lead merges the fix. She's feeling kind of relieved. All right, we hit the deadline. We're feeling good. But the client hasn't actually looked at that work yet. And the client wants some fixes. So the thing is, we already pushed that code for this ticket into the dev branch. So here we go. We've got changes from ticket 1 mixed in with ticket 3 and 4 and 1 and 4 and 5. And the client says, well, look, 4 and 5, they're what I asked for, but you're right. When you told me that those maybe weren't a good idea, you were right. Now, ticket 3, that's on you. You did not understand me. You got that one wrong. So we say, hey, Jason, could you just deploy that 1 that the client was happy with? And now Jason is like, ah, damn. How do I just get those 3 commits? Do I like cherry pick them into another branch? Or do I like rebase and rewrite history? Or do I like revert the other ones and then cherry pick them back and then revert the revert? I'll revert the revert. That never makes a mess. right? I don't know who here has lost days of their life to that workflow, but I have lost way more than I like to think about. So that's why I created this thing called Probo.ci. The goal is to fix that specific problem. So Probo.ci is an open source continuous integration tool. And it's also software as a service platform for running your tests and standing up those QA environments. It gives us our new workflow. Some of this will seem familiar. The dev assigns the ticket. Lead assigns the ticket. The dev, still very confident. He thinks about it. He opens a pull request. Again, he's very cocky. I got this. The project manager checks it. Project manager sees it's right. Or not, right? Here, the project manager didn't have to send it to the lead asking for the review yet. That's the beauty of this. The project manager can see it right there because it's got a standalone QA environment where we can see this one change. If it's no good, send it back to the dev, let him think and code some more, check it again. When it's all set, we can send it to the client. The client sees that it's right. Then the lead can do the final code review, make sure everybody used check plane where they needed to use check plane and filter XSS where they needed to run filter XSS, make sure there aren't any security updates that need to be applied before deploying this. Project can run smoothly, and there's much relief and rejoicing. And then the customer wants an update. You start the whole thing again. So the thing is, without Probo.ci, master always had a mix for us of things that were and weren't vetted by the clients. And as much as we tried to lay out everything, we actually had some conversations with clients where we said, oh, but if you refer to the beautiful BDD, test-driven development, behavior-driven development specs that we wrote together in Gherkin, that's not in there. And he said, don't tell me about the specs. I don't ever want to hear about the specs when you didn't build a feature. And we were like, well, what did you think the specs were for? Right? As much as you can try to get exactly what the client wants, it's never quite perfect. And so testing feature branches is always hard. The devs want to work on master. If there's not automation, if there's not for them a place for them to see that change quickly, then there's some friction. And wherever there's friction in doing things the right way, people just default to doing them the wrong way. The only way I've gotten my team to 100% do things the way that I want them to do them is by automating it. All of a sudden, they're like, oh, cool, like I'll grab a database every morning because like it only takes me 10 seconds to grab a database. I run one command across any of our sites. I can get a new database while I'm getting my coffee. All of a sudden, we're not having issues where you're like, dude, do you still have the database from last week? Get the new database. And then the other thing is, without Probo.ci, we'd work in feature branches, but then only devs could see that work. The PMs and the clients could never see how this thing was coming along. They just had to go on the word of the developer or tap them on the shoulder and say, can you actually show me on your computer what this thing is? Now, one other issue that we've had is dev would end up, so someone's working on a feature branch or somebody's working on a feature, and let's say they need to create a new content type that's going to show up on some list somewhere. They create that content type and create, a few entries so they'll show up in that list on development, but we refresh dev every night. So now the QA person or the client comes in to see the feature and we blew that environment away because we're refreshing dev from production every single night. I wasn't even trying to solve that problem, but we've ended up finding that we're no longer struggling with that since we're using Probo. Because master only has work that's been approved by the client and it's always ready for deployment. And because we have these little environments that are dedicated to this one change, it's less critical that those databases get refreshed all the time. They're their own standalone environments. It's sitting there unless you want explicitly to refresh it. So if you've had to go in and create something and add it to that list, that change with that sort of sample content for the client to see, that doesn't just go away automatically unless you're pushing new code changes or unless you're saying rebuild that. Every team member and every client can see the state of the site if this ticket in its current state were merged in. And reviewing is super easy. The lead doesn't even need a local environment. we're reviewing tickets from our iPad now because we don't need to check out the code, pull the branch, do a diff or go look on GitHub, then click around on our local after we get a new database, revert the features, run the database updates. We can just look in GitHub, click the link, go see what the site would look like if we merged this, decide whether it's right or not, read all the code, put comments that somebody needs to deal with before we merge it, click the merge button right from the iPad, and get that combined in and deployed to Acquia or Pantheon or whatever you have hooked up. And the test content for review doesn't get blown away because each change is in its own environment. We don't have a single environment that's getting blown away all the time. Each environment gets built sort of as it's needed, and it stays there until you're done with it. So the deployment steps have also always been verified because every time it ends up being that if everybody needs to show their changes in a Probo branch, and then that's going to get merged and deployed onto dev, and then that's going to get merged and deployed onto production, that environment that's shared, every time they want to push new code to their feature branch, if they don't have their deployment process, their database updates, their stuff and features, it becomes immediately visible that that stuff is missing. So that was one of the other things that we catch, especially with features. Somebody would be like, oh yeah, that's totally done, like check out my feature branch. And we'd go in and we'd be like, it's busted, the field's not even here. I can't even check the button to turn on the new feature on the content type because it's not, and they're like, oh, I forgot to add the Boolean field that said make my feature work. Oh yeah, you need that, hang on, I'll export. Oh shoot, I refreshed my database, I lost that, I need to redo it. Right, it's really obvious to the dev because they push their feature branch, they click the button, they see it in Probo, and like, that thing's just missing. So because there's a place for them to go look at it where they don't have to do anything except for click the link, you end up catching that they forgot stuff much earlier in the process. So this is kind of our idea of how this works. Each time you complete a feature and submit a pull request, Probo builds you a standalone place where multiple people can look at it and say whether it's good or not. If not, it bounces back. If so, you can kind of do that final, make sure that everything works nicely together before you sort of merge that into dev and deploy it. I'm not saying you don't need a dev and staging branch still to verify that all this stuff plays nicely together, but it helps you make sure that that dev branch, that dev environment is like pretty much always ready to go. We found that we use the staging environment much less because dev's almost always ready to go. So it integrates with GitHub. I keep talking about pull requests. We also have integration for Stash, or they just changed the name to Bitbucket Hosted, which sounds like they host it for you, but it means the opposite of that. Bitbucket Hosted means you host it yourself. Thanks, Atlassian. But yeah, we've got GitHub and Bitbucket Hosted integration with Bitbucket public integration coming soon. They're planning to unify those APIs, but they're still separate right now. How is it made? Node.js and Docker. As much as I love Drupal, it's not the right fit for every job, and it's not good at doing things like streaming log output. Node.js is pretty good for that stuff, and most Drupal developers know some JavaScript, so I thought it would be less hard to dive into than something like Go. We can argue about whether that was a mistake later. One other detail that I wanted to throw in here, just in case you jump into the project and think that it's weird, we run fat containers. What that means is instead of spinning up a separate Docker container for PHP and MySQL and Solr, we spin up one container that has sort of a little lightweight process manager that spins up those other things. So that ends up looking a little bit more like what Rocket, which is another kind of Docker competitor, what Rocket's pods look like. Because part of the thing is we want Docker's C group stuff to be grouping all of those processes together for resource scheduling, because we're worried about a unit being noisy, not an individual service being noisy. And we're never going to scale out one of these and need to add more services because they're standalone instances that kind of spin up and down. Never more than one or two people are going to be looking at it. So that's kind of the justification for that. We have one container right now. It's built on Ubuntu 14.04. We've got a couple of others that are going to be coming out soon, so you can kind of run a stack more similar to whatever you're running in production. So, like I said, there's sort of two versions. There's the open source version And then there's our software as a service version that you can just sign up and well, it's in beta right now. We'll talk more about that. But you can just have us run it for you. So let me start with the open source version. It's a microservice architecture. So we've got something called the proxy, something called the GitHub handler, something called the container manager, this thing called Loom. And the idea is, and then we put the whole thing behind Nginx, although you could put it behind HA proxy or whatever you want. So the idea is you push some new code to GitHub. GitHub sends us a message. We hand it off to our GitHub handler, which is this dedicated service just for talking to GitHub. It sends a message back to this service we call the container manager, which tells Docker, hey, spin up a container for me and run this stuff in it. And when Docker runs that stuff, it sends logs out to this service that we've open sourced called Loom. The idea is it weaves standard out and standard error and all your different streams together to capture those. Then, when you go to click that link that build finishes, container manager posts something back to GitHub, giving you the link to view it. You click that link on your laptop. Nginx takes you to our proxy server, which talks to the container manager and says, hey, if that container is asleep, wake it up, and then tell me what port to connect to so that you can go to buildid.yourproboserver.com and have that connect back to the appropriate container. Note I said wake it up if it went to sleep. We have a timeout in the container manager, and if nobody's viewed a container for more than a configurable amount of time, we stop the container. Don't waste your RAM. Somebody connects again, we wake the thing up before we connect you to it. It's the same thing that Pantheon does on their free tier. How long it takes to wake back up depends on the quality of your hardware. On the hardware we run, even pretty big Drupal sites wake up in like 2-3 seconds. But I'm going to get back to that. We run on some pretty awesome hardware, so your mileage may vary. So Nginx, we terminate SSL and we route to the appropriate microservice based on host name and path. The GitHub handler is the thing that sort of encapsulates all of the stuff for talking to GitHub. So we have another one for Stash in our hosted version, and we'll have another open source one we're working on right now for Bitbucket. So it basically accepts those webhook calls and is responsible for taking notifications that like a build finished and figuring out how to format it for GitHub's status API to send that message back. It also retrieves your configuration file. I'll talk more about that configuration file, but like Travis, it's how you tell us what to run. The container manager drives Docker. So it talks to Docker over the remote API, either over a Unix socket or a TCP socket. That's up to you. Starts and stops containers. Kicks off running the build steps and sends the messages to our log collection service I was talking about before. It also reports on containers that are running on the system, so we can find out things like how much disk space they're using, which ones are up right now, what port are they listening on. Loom gives us a way to retrieve an arbitrary stream, and you can even use it for binary streams, and stores it with some metadata so that you can say, read me everything in that stream, and then tail it if it's still being read, and it'll send you the new messages down as they come in. So you could basically say, like, read me the log, and then keep sending me stuff as it comes in. And it supports stream multiplexing, hence the Loom name. The web proxy fetches the container address and port and proxies the web request to the, and it supports domain access and multi-site. To the appropriate container was the end of that sentence. But I wanted you to use your imagination. So the reason I say it supports multi-site mostly is you need to do some weird stuff because we're, at the moment, I can talk to you about how to support multi-site if you're curious about it. I won't drag all of you through it. It's a little bit tricky because you need to get clever with the host names without having Drupal build bad links. We support domain access really well. Basically by allowing you to define suffixes for your builds. so that in the URL you can make it build ID-US, build ID-UK, and you can use that to switch on domain access. We also, this is one of our other differentiators for something like Travis. One of the things that stinks about Travis and most of the other tools out there is that it's not built for systems that rely on having a database. Because usually most systems say like, oh, you're doing CI, great. You're a grown-up programmer who puts everything in code, and you'll like stand up an environment and put test fixture data in it, and you'll run against that, right? But again, in Drupal, we pour a whole ton of the configuration into the database or allow you to override it from the database. So what the asset receiver allows you to do is upload some arbitrary asset that you want to use in your builds. So you can upload a database snapshot and we'll use that to build all of the environments until you send us a new one. So you can have a Jenkins job that takes a dump from production, clears out, replaces the password, emails, any other sensitive data, pushes it up to us, and then we'll build all your environments from that forevermore. Till you send us a new one tomorrow night, and then we'll use that. So it supports asset tokens, which I'll show in a second, so that basically you can have one of these asset tokens and drop it into your Jenkins job, and it's specific to your project. And we store the files compressed and encrypted. Then you can download them only from inside your build. We don't have an API endpoint for you to download them directly, but you can use them inside your build. So here I'm cheating a little. All this so far has been all about the open source version, but that's a screenshot from the closed source web UI, which I'll be talking about more. So in the web UI, we give you a token. Without the web UI, if you're using just the open source version, you'd need to do some command line magic to get one of these tokens. And then this is just a snapshot of the GitHub page for that project. We have a little command line Node.js utility for uploading one of these assets. So you give us the token, and you can send us the asset. So pretty much that just looks like this. If my video plays, yeah. So you just run npm install Probo uploader. That'll install our command line client. You have to have Node installed first. And then once that is done, you can just run Probo uploader token equals some token that you get from our site. So here it is. Actually, we've updated the web UI a little bit, but there I am just copying that web token. You can see there's a little example of what you might type. And then you just give it the name of the database that you want to upload. There's our ZivTech 8x SQL file. You hit enter, and it uploads the file for you. So that's how you get assets into Probo.ci. Everything I've shown so far, you can completely run yourself. It's 100% open source, and we are looking forward to your pull requests. Now, here overlaid is the architecture for our software as a service version. So all we've done is stuck a couple of new services in the middle here. So we added a web UI where you can eventually put in a credit card and look at your resource usage and decide whether you want to upgrade or downgrade plans. And then we've added a coordinator, which is sort of the API for that front-end only web UI that sort of has its own RethinkDB database that keeps track of what containers are on which container machine and what the resource limits are, and can look at utilized versus allowed and decide which containers need to get shut down or who needs to not be allowed to make any more builds or any of that kind of stuff. So those are the two pieces that we've sort of kept closed source, only responsible really for enforcing resource restrictions, and it is what makes it easy for us to enable big deployments with multiple container managers. So if you need to run more containers than fit on one machine, it's useful. It would be useful for that too. And the web UI, again, for the branding, for the credit card handling, for all that stuff that we kind of don't want to make two versions of, that's just closed source for now. Although it would be pretty easy for you to build a web UI that, that sits on top of this. So that can collect credit cards and integrate with resource limiting, et cetera, et cetera. Now, here's the part of the talk that I promised I'd get back to, the hardware. We are using some sick stuff from the guys at Packet.net. None of the Packet.net guys are here, are they? Yeah, Packet, the metal devil horns, absolutely warranted here. Packet.net is from the guys from Advomatic, formerly. What it is raw metal as a service. So just like you can go on Amazon and say like, clicky click, give me a machine of this size, and they provision some VM for you somewhere, and it sits in like a Zen virtual infrastructure, and there's a disk somewhere on some SAN, and you don't really know where, and it's going over some network that you don't really know what, and like they'll give you some kind of resource restrictions, but like if everybody's being quiet on your box, then like whatever, they'll be generous and they'll give you a little more cycles, because why not? We'll let you burst past, but then, oh no, everybody else on your box is doing a lot of stuff, so now we'll throttle you back to what you're actually paying for. So if you're on Amazon and you do benchmarks, they're for right now, they're for this minute, they're for this run, and will we get that next time? Will we get that at peak? I don't know. Hopefully our peak isn't the same as anybody else's. With Packet, you get real freaking hardware. They just have 3 sizes of boxes. 2 are out right now, 1's coming soon. And you say, I want this box, and they say it's this many dollars an hour. You say provision. They format a hard drive on a physical server, and now that server's yours, paid by the hour, until you want to shut it down again, at which point they write zeros to disk and format it for somebody else. So they just keep enough spare hardware that they've got racks with machines sitting and standing by, and you can click a button and get them. Now the sickest part, what we're running our container manager on, is this machine that has dual NVMe drives. NVMe drives are flash solid-state SSD drives where the flash chips were faster than SATA 3. So they realized, not Packet, but NVIDIA and Intel and folks, they realized, you know, we're building faster hard drives than people can use in their machines. So they repackaged the thing, stuck them on video card buses, PCI Express, and slapped that into the machines. Those are the disks that they will give you with a Type 3 machine from Packet.net. They are almost as fast as RAM, and they give you 2 of them, and you can RAID 0 them together. So that's what we run our containers on. The stuff which is why, Scott, they spin back up in like 2-3 seconds. And like our features revert faster, our database updates run faster, our environments build faster than they do on our local machines. Which has led one of our developers, Jody, who was pictured in those slides earlier, to move to what she calls GitHub-only development, where she tries to do her work for the entire day without opening an actual text editor. She just goes onto GitHub, clicks create a branch, edits some stuff, clicks commit, waits for the pull request to spin up, sees whether it looks good or not, does some more work right there in the GitHub editor, hits commit, waits for it to show up. She's like, it's faster and I can do it on my iPad, it's fine. So Packet.net. Their machines are not cheap compared to what you can get a baseline Linode for, but if you compare what you're actually getting in terms of processor, CPU, and storage, it's a pretty sick deal. That said, those Type 3 servers I was talking about, be sitting down when you run the calculation for what that hourly price works out to per month. But it enables sort of huge multi-tenancy. If you can fit a lot of stuff on one of those boxes. So one more thing that I think I should probably talk about. We're running all of these containers on a machine, and I know there are some security conscious folks in the audience here. What does this look like for multi-tenancy? Well, Docker is built on top of what's colloquially referred to as the Linux container stack. It's namespaces and C groups, although that's not really security. That's mostly about resource limiting. So it's as good as namespace isolation. So you've got your network namespace, you've got your file system, sort of chroot stuff, and that's as good as any Docker hosting is that allows you to be multi-tenant. We've got 3 answers if that doesn't seem good enough to you. One, you can talk to us. We don't have any of this publicly posted, but you can talk to us, and we can set up a separate container manager on our SaaS service where we run only your environments. So there, you don't have to worry as much about the multi-tenancy, because even if somebody could break out of their container, it's only your employees. They probably have access to that database and that code anyway. The other one is just host it yourself. We open source the core of it. The web UI is nice if you have a lot of projects. If you have a lot of people working on few projects, just host it yourself, run it on your own machine, secure it behind the firewall. Again, you don't have to worry about it. The third option is we're soon going to be bringing to market like an enterprise edition that you can run behind the firewall. That's not there yet, but if you're interested in it, hit me up. So to the demo, I want to show a video real quickly. I don't ever trust Wi-Fi anymore at these things, so I pre-recorded it. And it looks pretty good, right? Here, let me turn. I can see it. Let me turn mirroring back on. Why did you go over there? Yeah. Hey, there we go. So I'll just talk you through kind of what's going on here. So here we're checking out a new branch, calling background green. You are not going to believe what I do in this branch. We're going in and we're adding a CSS file. We're just changing the background from orange to green. Shocking, I know. Just to give us something really clear. So we do an add-p. At ZivTech, we say that doing git add without the -p is a fireable offense. You should always be looking at every single line before you add it to a repository. We've never actually fired anybody for that. And yes, yeah, it doesn't allow you to add new files, but you know. And now we're just doing git push, origin background green, push a new branch up to the ZivTech repository for our main site. There you go. GitHub, if you had the window open, does a WebSocket push and pops that new branch right up there with a, hey, do you want to create a pull request button? You just say, yes, I do. You add some kind of message that's super descriptive, complete sentences, please. And there you go. Now you see right away our status API updated, and you can see that a Probo.ci environment is being built. And there you go. This particular repository had like a whole ton of steps. We want to revert features, we want to move the code around, we want to run database updates. And so all of that stuff is going to run one thing at a time. Now, I think we skip ahead in history just a little bit here to, you know, actually, do I even skip? Maybe it runs fast enough that I just wait it out. Let's find out. And then you'll see that these detail links here will actually take you to the log of exactly what's being done at that time. And you can see, like, I clicked that, but it was just finishing right then. So you can see each of these is green. Those are all the different steps. I'll show you the new UI. We've updated this UI just a little bit since I recorded this video. And here's the magic. You click that View Build button, and you'll see after just a second for that environment to spin back up. So that Docker container is getting started in the background. MySQL's heating up its caches. Drupal's, you know, PHP is parsing the Drupal op cache. There you go. Now we have a stood up version of the Drupal site for ZivTech, and we scroll down, and the background is green. Our designers hate this demo. They're like, I made something beautiful, man. Leave it. But there you go. So you can see on the dashboard, we've got that project, and we've got our history of builds. We can go down and see what pull requests and branches they were on. We can click on the details to see any of those individual logs. And we can click that View Build button from anywhere and see this environment get spun up. And then when we scroll down, we're going to see that this one is blue. So there you go. An older version of that same demo where we had pushed another branch with turning the background blue. Just a super easy way to show you something super visible. So, and then you can see also here there are links to the pull requests, and you can see that you can always click on the individual commits. So if you push updates, you'll get new commits there with new checkboxes, red X's, or you have a yellow circle while the build's still running. So you can actually go back and you could jump into those older builds. So if we wanted to click on one of those builds, we can click on details, jump right into that build, click view build and go see, there you go, you can see I was looking at the logs there. Click view build and be able to hop in and see exactly what it looked like at this step. Orange, whoa, crazy times. How many of those builds do we keep around? Right now, almost all of them. But we're working on making a smarter sort of Reaper garbage collector that'll be based on how many environments you're paying to run. So like basically the oldest ones will get destroyed when new ones get created because our most finite resource is actually the storage space. Usually in computing it's RAM, but because we shut these containers down when you're not using them, it's disk. So we're working on some optimizations to improve that and make it cheaper for us to run more things that are similar. But yeah, that's our limitation. So that's what we're kind of, I think, basing the pricing model on, although we don't have official pricing yet. And then it'll try to keep, by the way, it's not just oldest environment, it'll try to keep the most recent environment for every open pull request. And then trash other stuff after that. So, Probo.ci/NYC. I am sending out invite codes on priority basis for folks that are at talks like this and sat through this spiel. So if you go on there, get on the list. We're doing a rolling invite for the beta so that we can kind of make sure that we're keeping an eye on things as it scales, as we get more information about what kind of resources people take, just to make sure that we can make sure that it continues to be a good experience for everybody. So get on that. It's more or less first come, first serve, but priorities being given to folks that came in on a URL from one of these talks. And we're letting people into the beta now. We're planning to start opening it up to everybody and charging by about January. And we're hoping to have a free tier as well. But we're still figuring out the pricing and kind of what we can afford to pay for and subsidize. Thanks, guys.
Anybody with questions?
Yeah, if we're not using GitHub, Bitbucket, and the likes. We have our own. I use the word Git server for want of a better word. Can we switch so we can use our own Git repository?
Can you support your own Git repository? In our near-term backlog right now, we have exposing an API, which would, in theory, allow you to do that, but you'd need to give us some way to access your code. So then you'd need to give us an SSH key to be able to, or something to be able to clone from your repo. So I'd say that's probably not on the near-term roadmap, although it wouldn't be that hard for you to build a service that you could use with the open source version.
Okay.
And feel free to hit us up in pull requests. This is, by the way, the new version of the UI. So you can see here we've sort of restructured a little bit to make it a little easier to navigate without having to scroll up and down a lot. And the UI is a lot like Travis. You kind of have all your GitHub repos here. You have stash below if you have that. You click one of these buttons to turn it on. And then right now we're grouping all of your stuff for one pull request together, but we're going to show the most recent one for each pull request so that this can be a little denser, because right now this can get kind of long depending on what you're looking at. Other questions?
Hey, that's pretty cool. So one thing I wanted to ask is how, so you have the checks in place, and one of the checks is like feature revert, right? Now we do something similar, except I want to do a feature revert, then get the list output and see if there's anything overridden, and then mark the build as fail. Like, how would I?
Oh, that's interesting. So, so there's two ways. Okay, so we have. Let me show you the YAML file for. So we actually just launched a new feature today. So I can show you the before and after because I haven't merged in the commit yet. So this is our old YAML file for ZivTech. So here we're doing all of the work. We're setting up a working directory. This is running a drush command that also actually creates an Apache virtual host with special configuration. And we're manually unzipping the database file. And so this, kind of like Jenkins or something, if a command exits 0, it's a success. If it exits non-zero, it's a failure. If any step exits non-zero, the build's a failure. So if you wanted to...
there I could see how to do it.
Right. If you wanted to do like drush features list, grep, quiet, overridden, bam. Now you've got one that checks to see if anything's overridden, marks the build a failure, but still could continue and run everything else. Right now, we don't bail when a step fails. We keep running. We just call the thing a failure because that's much more useful in a QA environment than it is in a CI environment where something might fail, and that doesn't mean you should just bail and destroy the environment or something. You might want to go in and look at why it failed, which is one other cool feature here. If you're running tests, like you've got behat tests, they hit a certain point and something unexpected happens and they fail, you can click on the environment and you can go see what that looks like. Now, let's say you're like, Jesus, I just want to run my stupid Drupal site just like it runs on Acquia. You want me to run like copy 20 lines of boilerplate configuration when I don't want to be Eric Duran and like do some kind of special thing to like check if features are overridden before we fail our build or not? It's cool, I got your back. I can click over here on the testing new Probo provisioner plugin. And I can show you that all that red is the stuff I deleted and I replaced it with just that green. So let me show you what that file looks like. And you'll see I'm even doing a couple of extra things at the bottom here. So there are different plugins. There's a script one, so if you wanted to layer a couple of steps together, you can do that in one thing, because as you probably saw, each of these steps gets a status update to GitHub. So you might want that to like shut up and not report all of the steps for standing up the site. You might just want to be like, stand up the site, run the tests. So you could use the script for that. Or there's a Drupal plugin. You can run any LAMP app on this right now. And we're adding Docker images for other types of applications as well. We're just focusing on Drupal first, then WordPress, and then opening it up to like Ruby and Node.js. So if you set that this is a Drupal plugin, you can just tell us the database. You didn't have to do any of that magic. You tell us that the database is gzipped. We're working on adding auto detection, so you could leave that off too. And then you just tell us true or false. Do you want me to run the database updates? Do you want me to revert the features? You can also have it tell it that this is an install profile with a drush make file. It'll run the make file, and then you can tell it to run a fresh Drupal install. So if you're not using a database, if you're doing fresh builds, you can do that. And if you, like a lot of folks doing that, kind of do that for the development process, and then at launch, now we have a real database we should be testing with to make sure nobody broke something on production. You just have to change the configuration to say like run install false, use database, here's the name of it. So you edit 2 lines when you launch, and now you're testing with a real database because you can't do a fresh install anymore. You're going to lose everyone's comments. Other questions?
So is there a lot of documentation, and is there a place to ask questions where the community can help each other out for the open source version?
Yep. So there's a fair amount of documentation, although that's one of the things that we're working actively on. So Probo.ci/docs You can see that this is where we have the documentation. This repository is totally open source on GitHub. You can fork it. You can submit pull requests to add documentation. We can click the merge button and merge it. And then, see, maybe I should have taken that lavalier mic. Hang on. The Probo.ci organization is sort of the center of all this stuff. So if you have issues, we are trying to work increasingly in the issue queues themselves. And you can see we're adding ElijahLynn because our coding standards have been less consistent than I'm about to beat everyone into being. So yeah, create an issue, check out our docs, create an issue, feel free to contribute to the docs, feel free to contribute here. We don't have our whole backlog on here yet publicly. We're working on trying to improve that and putting more of that out there so people can see what we're thinking and not have that be behind closed doors. So we're trying to push more and more of that development out into the open.
Hi. So you're creating these environments for these different views on demand, right? So
Yep.
what happens when you have a really large database? Because transferring a 4 gig database over network can take like half an hour or something. So how do you handle that?
Okay, so there's two parts to your question, or several. There's parts to your question. So how do we handle really big databases? Well, there's a couple things. One is, like I was saying, we allow you to upload your database to us. So by default, we don't fetch your database in real time. You use some syntax like this to send us your database on some schedule, probably from Jenkins or a cron job somewhere, and we build from that. So we don't have to wait for the 4 gigabyte database to get from you to our servers in Newark. It's already at our server in Newark. We just need to transfer it from one machine to the other and import it into Docker. Now that said, that could still be slow, and like I said, we're going to be doing pricing partly based on disk space because that's what's expensive for us. So the question then is, why is my database 4 gigabytes? So what we're doing is we have Jenkins jobs set up, or cron jobs set up, depending on where the thing's running and whether we can run Jenkins there, that import a database, clear out sensitive user information, passwords, email addresses, etc. And then those jobs also truncate unnecessary data. So they clear the dumb stuff, sessions table, cache table, semaphore table, that stuff that probably doesn't need to move from environment to environment. And then you have to ask yourself, how much better can I get than just the dumb stuff? So for example, one thing that we have is a big e-commerce site. So we drop every order that's not in the past 3 months. Because for our dev environment instances, we probably don't need all of that stuff. The product catalog's not huge. All of the orders from forever are huge. So we just trim that down so that we don't have to be tripping over all this data. In our experience, it's spending an hour or two on database trimming really makes the thing manageable, even with a huge database. And then you use that to seed your development environments so you don't have to import a 4 gigabyte database every time you want to stand up your local or update your local. So I think that's what I'd recommend. Now that said, the last time I gave this talk, somebody came up and said, like, I have 20 gigabytes of data and all of it's important. I was like, I don't know, man. Host it yourself and get really clever with your ZFS configuration? I don't know. That's on you. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I actually like the recommendation on. Yeah, it does answer my question, and I actually like the recommendation on trimming the database. I think that's also helpful for like the nightly updates on our own local servers.
Yeah, I've had a lot of people come and say to me like, my database is absolutely huge. It's like 30 gigabytes, and I went and looked at their database, and I was like, okay, yeah, but 29 of it was the sessions table. Like. Maybe fix your settings.php and maybe drop that table and maybe we're fine. Truncate the table. Don't drop your sessions table.
So there's this weird tool, and I don't remember the name of it now, but it lets you do relationship across your database and actually say you want only these 5 nodes. and actually only keep all the references to those 5 nodes and like the fields and stuff. So you can actually shrink your database to be semantically and schema correct, but have a very small DB. I forget what it's called. If I find it, I'll let you know. But it lets you really shrink.
Oh, that's awesome.
I don't
What's
remember
that?
what it's called.
There's a drush command that does that? Oh, that's...
Well, it's not a module. It's a MySQL tool. I don't remember the name of it, but Drush doesn't actually keep the relationships and stuff.
let me
It's like
know, because that
it's a
sounds
MySQL
awesome.
thing. Yeah.
I mean, in theory, the Drupal API could help you build that query because it knows all the field schema. If that tool doesn't exist, especially for Drupal, we should make it, because that would be really cool. Because that's the hard thing with Drupal, right? Is it's, I don't know if you call it a normalized, hyper-normalized database. Like everything has a table.
So we have time for a couple more questions. So one right.
Can you talk a little bit more about the socket activation? Is that part of the proxy or the container manager? And
the socket activation is part of the proxy and the container manager, sort of. So the way that works is a web request comes in, it hits the proxy. The proxy doesn't know what port, or if you're running multiple container managers, even maybe which host to connect to. So the proxy makes a blocking GET request, and I'll brace myself for the rest purists to throw things at me. That blocking GET request changes state in a tiny way. It spins the container up if it was asleep. Once the container is spun up in the container manager can ask Docker what its port is, find out what the port is, and then respond to that proxy request. So the proxy request basically says to the container manager, hey, who should I talk to about this request that came in? And the container manager goes like, oh, sure thing, officer. Hang on 1 second. Dude, get up. The cops are here. Get up. And then the site stands back up. You got the container. Okay, we know what the port is. There you go, officer. He's right here. Right? So that's sort of how that workflow works. So the proxy doesn't really know what's going on. The proxy just says like, hey, what port should I connect to? And it doesn't hear back until that wakes up. And then the container manager keeps track of those requests that are coming in so that it can then shut the thing down if it hasn't heard anything in, 20 minutes or whatever. So, and the proxy does some caching too. Right now, there's nothing clever. You just have to make sure that your cached lifetime for the proxy server is less than the timeout in the container manager. So that the container manager won't time out before the proxy server pings the container manager again, resetting the clock. And we might make that more clever eventually. We're adding, right now, all of the interaction here is like REST requests, and we're adding like a Kafka messaging layer so that you can kind of like make things a little more asynchronous and fault tolerant.
I just saw your repo. You don't have a license or TXT, so
I think we are licensing it Apache 2.
Thank you.
My boss was just complaining that I hadn't put a license on it, so that will come. It's going to be open source and pretty permissible. It's either going to be GPL2 or Apache. I'm not sure yet.
Hey, quick question. So what's the easiest way to grab the links after they're built? So if I'm running an external testing suite for smoke testing or whatever, generate a lot of links when I push my code. How do I grab those links automatically from my external testing suite?
Oh, so basically you want to stand up the environment and then you want to point this external testing tool at it.
Yes.
That response comes in 2 parts. One is we're building a notification system, which is going to enable like email notifications if your build is passing or your build is failing, a la Travis and Jenkins and all the rest. HipChat and Slack will be really easy once we have that. The other thing that we're going to be including in that is webhooks. So you could just tell us what URL to hit when we stand up a new environment for you, and we'll hit that, send a post to that URL so that you can start it. If you were hosting this yourself, once we get the Kafka thing in place, it would be easy to subscribe to that if you wanted to run your own service. The other thing is those URLs show up in the web UI. So it depends on whether you wanted that. I mean, ideally, you'd probably want to get that whole thing to be automated. You know, you can copy and paste it from here, but that's obviously kind of not ideal. You ideally want something to, you know, notify you. So I think that webhook feature that admittedly is not quite there yet. It would be pretty easy to patch the code if you were hosting it yourself to send that somewhere. And like I said, we're going to have a notification API to make that easier. Does that tool have an API that another system is allowed to hit?
Yeah.
You should talk to me after this because I'd like to hear about what that tool is and whether I can integrate with it. But yeah. All good? Or one more? All good?
Yeah, I think we're fine.
Perfect. Thank you guys so much. Really appreciate it. Oh, I also have stickers.
Yeah, the stickers are in the back on the table where the pizza is. So there's two types. They're really cool. So wanted to get you guys all excited for the next meetup. It's going to be on a Wednesday, December 9th. We have 2 presentations already on the books. We are still coordinating additional presentations. But for the ones that we have on the books right now, we have one on Fepper for Drupal by E. And just in case you don't know what Fepper is a front-end prototyper that uses Pattern Lab, which is kind of like an atomic design tool, Gulp, Express, and Node.js to kind of streamline front-end development. And then Matt is going to be talking about event-based decomposition. So get excited for our December meetup, December 9th on a Wednesday. So now, what you all have been waiting for, after party at Bill's Bar and Burger. This is at 16 West 51st Street. And you can actually get there from the concourse. And if you get there before anyone else, if you're like the first early bird, you can just say like, hey, I'm here, the Drupal NYC Meetup. We're going to be hanging out at the concourse level bar. So yeah, see you there. And thanks for coming. And thanks to all our presenters and our organizers. And thank you again to the NBC Universal talent acquisitions team for being here and helping us have this venue, the food, and the drinks. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.